What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode with your Young Guns podcast. I'm pretty sure this is going to conclude our trade destinations series for the moment, unless there's other news that's announced heading towards the trade deadline. But today we're going to be potentially ending the series with one of the newest names that have been added over the last couple of weeks, and that is Jeff Petry. So, as you can see here, I'm wearing a Miami Marlins baseball um, jersey because it seems like Petry's playing as if he's on the beach on Miami right now. And his dad, Dan Petry, also played for Detroit in baseball. So that's it's a little like 2-for-1 like connection right there going on. But yeah, so let's get into it with the Petry news. So according to Eric Engels, they're gogging the value on Jeff Petry this season. He hasn't been the best. We all know that his offensive numbers have declined. He's not that good defensively. Maybe it's due to the injuries and him not playing with Edmondson, who's been injured all season long. And the Canadians haven't been successful whatsoever, dead last. So, I mean, there's no excuse essentially for the way that Petry's playing though, because he should be able to play at an elite level like he has been able to do in the past seasons. So as of right now, we have Dallas and Detroit, who are like the basically the two favorite teams to land Jeff Petry. Um, Eric Engel says that the Stars and Red Wings would prefer Jeff Petry at $5 million per season, but the Canadians are not willing to retain any salary at the moment. If teams want Petry, they need to take him at full price. He's currently 34 years old. He gets paid $6.25 million per season. He has a modified 15 no trade clause. Hughes mentioned in his presser when addressing the Toffoli trade. He mentioned Klingberg's name a couple of times. He mentioned the link with Dallas and using Klingberg as an example when referring to what he's looking to do heading into the off season and also with the deadline. So there has to be some connection there because you already have Dallas who has interest in Petry. Jim Neal must have had conversations with Kent Hughes already regarding Jeff Petry's availability, and also Kent Hughes also explained during that presser that if they find a trade that works for us and the other team, then they're definitely going to trade
So,
Jeff Petry. So as what I just based off what I read right now, it seems that it's very likely that Jeff Petry will be dealt heading into the 2022 NHL trade deadline.
well, I think that seems to be the situation over here with Jeff Petry. It looks like for him, it looks like his relationship with the Montreal Canadiens is going to come to an end sooner rather than later. I think for him, to be honest, I don't know if you guys agree with me or not on this, but I personally don't like the way he's acted during this time with the Canadians. I think personally, I know that he's having issues, and I know that COVID hasn't helped with the team, and not seeing his wife and his wife being out of town and whatever. But I think you're a leader in this hockey team. You're a leader for this franchise. You signed a contract extension last year, and I know that things haven't gone to plan this season for the Canadians, and I understand that. And obviously, his friends Carey Price and Shea Weber, just to name a few, and obviously Joel Edmondson are not in the lineup, so it's hard for him to focus. But I think at the end of the day, you're a defenseman. You get paid millions of dollars. You're in a big market, and I find that he's just, to be honest, and I don't want to rip into him or anything, but I think he looks really unmotivated. He looks like he doesn't want to be there, and I'm sorry, but
Hence the joke, Miami.
yeah, and that's kind of the problem with Jeff Petry is that, again, at the end of the day, I don't think he's acting like a leader. And I think what I liked about what Kent Hughes said is he said, look, we're going to find the trade that's going to work for both sides. And if it happens, we're going to trade. If not, we're going to keep until the offseason. And I think that that's fine. But I think Jeff Petry needs to step his game up a little bit more because of the fact that, yes, the Canadians haven't been great, but dude, you haven't played well either. So you're part of the problem. It's not like the Canadians are playing well, or it's not like the Canadians are playing bad and he's playing well. The guy has 6 points this season, right?
7.
7. The point is that 7 points for a guy who's projected to get about 40, 50 a season is not good enough. I don't care where the injuries are.
And he was one of the best defensemen last year. Yes, we
So
do know that he was playing in the Canadian division. It was regarded as one of the weaker divisions.
yeah,
That's up for debate. But even heading into the playoffs, he was a pivotal part to their success and their deep playoff run. So the Petry that we're getting right now is far from the Petry that we've seen over the last couple of years, ever since the Montreal Canadiens have acquired Petry from the Edmonton Oilers,
well,
which at the time was an absolute steal. I mean, it is an absolute steal. I think Edmonton regrets making that deal because we essentially gave up nothing to get a top four defenseman. But now looking at it, it seems like, is it his age that's playing a factor in the way he's playing? Is it because of the team not doing so well, and so many of his so-called friends are not part of the team right now, so he feels kind of like unmotivated, he doesn't want to be there, he doesn't really like the culture. There's a lot of things to take into consideration. I don't know if you have anything else to add, Chris, before we start
Well, I mean,
our list.
I wasn't. Well, before we add our list to where he's gonna go, I see a lot of people saying that we won't get more than a third round pick for Jeff Petry the way he's playing now. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but
no.
They're definitely gonna get more than a second round pick because, like, I know his value was very, very high at one point when he was putting up elite numbers and stuff. Obviously, that's not the case this year. But you have to understand that on a bad team, when things are going wrong, things are going wrong. There's a reason
Yeah,
why they're last place. And
yeah.
whether if he's part of their failures or not, I think he's still a capable top four defenseman on any other team. And
I
put him on a team where he's able to produce and stuff. I think, it's going to show the type of player that Jeff Petrie is. He just needs a change of scenery.
yeah.
I don't think that this season should really hurt his value completely. It definitely does take away from probably getting like a lot more, but I still think that he could fetch a first round pick and a prospect or
I I
something like that.
I think, look, I think you look at Jeff Petry's contract in terms of the fact, well, you look at the term and you look at the price. And I think, to be honest, yes, the Canadians haven't been good, but he hasn't lived up to that contract as of late. And I know that last year he did and he played really well, and there was a lot of talk. And, teams know how good Jeff Petry is. And it could just be a bad season. And obviously, I'm not taking
It
anything away
happens.
from
It's
that.
part of the
But I
game.
think,
well, to be honest, his contract's not that bad. 6.2
yeah,
million
but he's
for
34.
for the 3 extra years. It's not like they're stuck paying him till
Yeah,
he's
but still,
40.
if he, let's say this is the start of his decline, right? Let's say now is the start of his decline. Jeff Petry goes and starts declining. Why are teams gonna pay a first round pick, arguably, for a defenseman that isn't worth a first round pick at the moment?
Well,
And
I don't.
that's the thing. It's a
I,
risk. It's a risk that is not worth taking if you're a team that's fighting. Like if you're a team like Dallas, there's no reason for
But
you to do
Dallas
that.
likes their old players. They
well,
like
Yeah, I know, but
collecting
I'm
old
gonna be.
players like
why?
Infinity
Yeah, but
Stones.
why pay a first round pick for Jeff Petry, which I don't think he's worth that anyways. But
Well,
why pay
if
a
he's
first round
going,
pick for Jeff Petry if you're not going to go sign? You might as well sign Klingberg at that point.
if he's
He doesn't
going
want to
to,
be there. That's
if
the
he,
whole
I know,
point.
but still,
if he's going to a contending team, that first round pick is basically a second, anyways. And like, I don't think he's gonna end up going anywhere where they
I
won't make the
disagree.
playoffs.
Anyways, we're gonna get into our list right now, starting off with his hometown team, the Detroit Red Wings. So essentially, this is like where everyone has him going, because he's a Michigan boy, so he's from there. Moritz Seider is continuing to play in a top two role for the Detroit Red Wings decor, but also adding a guy like Petrie kind of gives him like a mentor in a sense. Also, like stabilizes like the defensive core as well. It also helps with the rebuild too. Having a veteran presence there, a hometown boy. Someone actually wants to be there. He's gonna be with his family. Uh, Definitely, they're gonna have to work out like the whole like cap issues situation because he is worth $6.25 million. But I think the Iserman, knowing how great he is as a GM, can make that work. Also, it gives time for the prospects to properly develop while Petrie finishes up the 3 remaining years of his contract. They're not expected to be a playoff team yet, but I definitely see them competing for a playoff spot as of next year. And we do know, according to Elliot Freeman, that Philip Zadina is a potential candidate to get traded because he needs a fresh start with another club. So, is it possible that Zadina could be part of a Jeff Petrie deal?
I mean, Chris, you go first.
Yeah, I mean, I would love, honestly,
Okay, he's cutting
Well,
out.
he cut off, so I'll continue.
You continue. You continue.
I think look, personally, I think adding Zadina is something that the Canadians could explore. But I think with Detroit, like I said, it goes back to term. If the term is there, the term is there. But the term is there, the term is there. But the thing is, if the Canadians retain salary, then you're getting a guy like Zadina. It makes sense. It works out. It is, it works for this team and whatever. But the problem is that if the Canadians don't retain salary, I don't know if Detroit's going to be willing to part ways with Zadina in a deal that brings Jeff Petry there. Anyways, I think Chris is back now. I don't know. Maybe
Is he
not.
back?
No, I think he keeps cutting off. So, anyways, I'll continue.
You'll continue.
So, anyways, back to what I was saying. So, anyways, I think personally that Zadina, he could be a fit in Montreal. I know there was a lot of Habs fans that wanted him there when he was there, when he got drafted by Detroit. If Detroit's willing to do it, and I think Montreal's going to have to retain some salary on Jeff Petry in order to make a deal like that work. I think it could be a case. I heard that there was a rumor that I think it was Darren Dreger or Pierre LeBrun that said it, that apparently the asking price from Kent Hughes is a second-round pick and a prospect. So I think that there's definitely
Better be an A-level prospect, in my opinion.
I think either way. I think even if Detroit offers a second rounder in Zadina, I think if you're the Canadiens,
Oh yeah, definitely pounce
it
on
works. It works out. It works out in that favor. So I think that could be a move that the Habs could look to explore. Anyways, Chris is back now.
Okay, you guys hear me now.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, welcome back.
All right. So as I was saying, I agree with what you guys said, Zadina, and maybe like a second or a third round pick. I'd be happy actually just with a 1-for-1, but if we could get more, it would be better. I just disagree with, and I've heard people saying this, they want Joe Valeno. And
That's
That
not a
is
good
true
fit.
about that
That's
too.
not a good fit because
not
Joe Valeno coming back to Montreal, especially
exactly.
if he can't play in a
Well,
market like Detroit, where yes, it is a hockey town, but like the expectations not as high because they haven't made the playoffs in the last couple of seasons. It's not the Detroit dynasty that they once were. Heading back to Montreal, where his friends are, where he went to high school, and so on. And this is no shot towards Joe Valeno. I just don't think he's going to be taking it seriously. I think it's going to be a distraction for him. And already the way that he's been playing and the way he's been developing, I think it's going to be 10 times worse if he comes back home. So if you do like somewhat like a homeboy for a homeboy, right? Detroit getting their Michigan guy in Petrie, and then you have Joe Valeno going back to Montreal where he's from. That would be kind of funny in a sense, but for the Montreal Canadiens' sake, that would be
Yeah,
a
I
huge
really
L, in my
hope
opinion.
I really hope they don't do that. And I agree with the distractions, and honestly, it's not just distractions, just the fact that, let's be honest here, I don't like, no, I don't want to take shots at him. He's not developing at what he should be. And with the fans that we have here, and already that they're pissed off that we're rebuilding, and
Yeah.
already that like they hired English guys instead of French guys.
Well,
The,
bilingual, but I mean, just because they have English names, they're
yeah.
not French or Quebecers,
So
whatever.
they're
Totally false.
I think I to avoid another situation like Jonathan Joy, where people were like going crazy on him for like taking a leave of absence. Imagine this kid, he's what, how old, 21, 22?
22,
He
22.
cut off, but I think what he was trying to say was
Well, I think Chris cut off now.
Yeah, I think
Right.
Chris cut off now.
Anyways, back to what
What's
I was
going
saying.
on?
Technical difficulties on the podcast today, but anyways,
Yeah.
I'll just continue what
are we all
Chris
good
was
here?
saying.
Is everything good?
Yeah,
Yeah, we
a
didn't
little
hear you
bit.
though.
It's probably the rain, I would say.
Yeah, it is raining pretty bad here.
Anyways, technical difficulty on the podcast. I think everything seems okay. Chris, I think you're back, so you can
Well,
continue
let's
if
speed
you
up this
want.
episode and try to finish it as soon as
Yeah, yeah.
possible.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
let's move on to the next
I
team.
just want to
So
say one
Nashville
thing on.
Predators.
I just
I,
want to say one thing on Valeno before we
Okay,
continue with
yeah.
Nashville. I just want to say one thing. I don't think he's been utilized well by Detroit either. I don't think. Look, don't get me wrong. He's not developing properly, but I think in Montreal, given a better opportunity, he could do some better things. And I've always been a big fan of Joe Valeno, so I wouldn't mind seeing him come to Montreal. But anyways, that's besides the point. Let's move on to
Yeah, let's
Nashville.
move
'Cause
on
I think
before the weather in Montreal ends this episode quicker than we expected.
they
So
don't want us
moving
to
on,
expose the teams
yeah,
that Petry's going to.
moving on. It's Ken Hughes. He's playing with the weather. Anyways,
Yeah.
that's it.
moving
He
on
was
to the
like, he's
Nashville
like, oh, shit.
Predators. So the Predators currently they have their current defensive right side is made up of Philip Myers, Matt Benning, Alex Carrier, and and yeah, that's pretty much it. So the right side's pretty weak. So I think a guy like Jeff Petry is immediately an upgrade on those guys. Yes, you have Fabro who's doing well. You have um, oh my god, what's his name? Jesus, oh my god,
Roman
Yossi's
Josi.
there too. Um, you have Elcom as well that's there too. So I mean, yeah, it's still a pretty solid defensive core, but they did lose Ellis and Subban in the last couple of years, so they're not as good defensively as they once were when they had that stacked defense. So the Preds are in a unique spot essentially because they have a large chunk of their core that's aging. They're not in their prime essentially anymore. So they have a small extension to win a Stanley Cup. Their window is very, very small, I would say.
Right.
Maybe 2 more years, I would say I would give them. So Nashville are probably going to be willing to give up a first round pick since they're still a contender as of lately. But also they have the Shea Weber situation who, uh, you know, um, that Montreal had
Ah,
put him on LTIR. It's likely that he's never going to play a game again, so he's not officially retired, but he technically is retired. Should the Predators, uh, kind of try to make a deal with Montreal, so to hope that they don't
I
have to
mean,
eat up Weber's contract, so possibly packaging the Weber contract and with Petrie allows the Nashville Predators to probably utilize the LTIR space and for future relief as well. And it also could allow Montreal to ask for a little bit more when it
oh,
comes to price. And the target that I think Montreal should go after in terms of a prospect would be Philip Tamasino.
I look. Here's what I think. I think number one, Nashville's got cap space to work with. They've got a lot of cap space, in fact, which is good. The thing with the Canadians, I don't think that if they decide to move Weber's contract, it's going to be at the end of the season. The reason I think that is because right now they have LTIR space with Weber being there, and the Canadians don't really have a lot of cap space anyways. So it doesn't really make sense for them to trade Weber's contract when they can just keep him on LTIR and it's fine. That number one. Number two, Nashville, like you said, they have a first round pick. I think adding a guy like Jeff Petry in Nashville makes a ton of sense. The reason I think it makes a ton of sense is because, like you mentioned, they don't really have a right-handed. Dante Fabro's there, but I don't know if he's necessarily the best fit for that top two role. And obviously, this team they're playing well, but they don't have that elite defenseman after Roman Yossi like they did when they used to have PK there and Ekholm and Ryan Ellis. I think Jeff Petry brings a really good dynamic to
Elcom's
Nashville.
not there anymore?
No, Ryan Ellis. Ekholm is still there.
Oh, okay, so it's just
Yeah,
Ellis and Subban.
yeah,
Okay.
Ryan Ellis and Subban. So I think what's interesting about Nashville is that if they trade a first round pick and they package something else and they give us a couple of prospects, I don't know about Tomasino. I don't think they trade Tomasino, and I don't think Nashville wants to do that. But I think a first round pick, and because Nashville can afford it, they take the full contract. I think Jeff Petry could do a really good job. Him and Roman Yossi together would make a lot of sense and a ton of sense. So I know that there's been not a lot of rumors about him in Nashville. I heard one or two, but I didn't really hear that much. I could see a team like Nashville maybe stepping up to the plate and saying, you know what, we'll take Jeff Petry and we'll see what we can do with him, because I think Nashville believe that there are a couple of pieces, maybe one or two pieces away from being a contender for the Stanley Cup. So I can definitely see that being the case for them.
What about you,
Chris?
Chris?
well, here's the thing though, is that if they get Jeff Petry, uh, next season, what's going to happen with Philip Forsberg? They won't have enough money to sign him.
Well, they will have enough money to sign him.
Well, right now they have how much salary cap do they have left? They're projected to have $10 million of cap space.
Yeah, but the thing is, right? So you look at the team right now. That's a situation that they can deal with when the
Yeah,
time
during the
comes.
offseason, I think
Because
it's totally
they don't
fine.
look. You think about it this way. Look at Mark Borowiecki. He loses. He's at $2 million. He goes back to $900,000. That saves money. Yes, Ekholm makes $6.25 million, but David Riddicks at 1.2. He's off. Like there's a lot of guys that they don't have to sign, that they don't have to bring back, and they could also trade some guys too that maybe have high cap hits. I'm looking at a
Yeah.
guy like maybe Mikael Granlund. There was rumors about Granlund potentially leaving last year anyways. Maybe Nashville turns around the offseason and moves him. I don't know, but they can definitely make it work right now with Jeff Petry, and I think they'll be able to make it work later on as well if they want to in the future. So I don't think that there's a concern there for Nashville. Obviously, the big piece is Philip Forsberg, but I think that if they can get him signed,
Yeah, it's
that
something
would
that's going to be figured
that
out
would.
obviously during the offseason, but as of right now, their their main focus is trying to win a cup as soon as possible because they had a chance in 2017.
Yeah,
It didn't work out, and ever since then they've been kind of like up and down. So we'll see what happens in that case. So
I
moving
think
on to the next team, so you have the Ducks. Okay, so all of a sudden the Ducks are having a great season. They kind of speeded up the rebuild process in a sense. So they have a lot of future and high end like prospects in their system. The Ducks are expected to shop UFA Josh Manson, who's generated a lot of um, interest around the league. But the thing is that he wants to stay in California. That means it's either if he does get traded, it's probably to a team like San Jose or probably LA, but might as well just take a discount and re-sign to the Ducks. So we'll see what happens with him. Um, Also, if they do trade Manson, it opens up a spot for Jeff Petry. There's also talks that Lindholm wants to test the market, so maybe they want to move him before he hits the UFA market this season. So trading away those two guys that are probably going to hit the market opens up not one spot but two spots to add a defenseman, and
I
that means more money for the Ducks, so they could fit in a guy like Petrie. They're obviously not going to trade a guy like Zegras, but maybe and
Oh,
just maybe they might want to part ways with a guy like Maxim Comtois, who's kind of fell out of favor with the Ducks. And there's also Jacob Perreault that they have. So will this be enough for the Canadians to make a deal with the Ducks?
I think, look, I think if they, I personally believe that if the Ducks make a deal for Jeff Petrie, if there is an opportunity for that to happen, I think they make it during the offseason. I don't think they make it now because there's no need for them to make it right now. With that being said, Max Comtois has been a guy that's been a topic of conversation for a long time regarding players that could be out of Anaheim. There's been talks about Sonny Milano as well, but I think Milano and Zegras have had a really good connection lately that they might want to keep that around. But I think, look, I think if the Ducks, if they're in the offseason and obviously they don't want Hampus Lindholm doesn't come back and Manson doesn't come back, or one of them comes back and the Ducks have the cap space and they want to, speed up the rebuild a little bit more, I could definitely see a situation where Petrie goes to Anaheim and Comtois comes back the other way. I just don't think that it happens right now. I think that a deal like that for Jeff Petrie, at least in regards to the Anaheim Ducks, I think makes more sense in an off-season standpoint than right now because the Ducks don't need to add anything. Let's be honest. If they go to the playoffs, if they make the playoffs, they're likely going to be out in the first round because I think they're not there yet. And so I think for Jeff Petrie, making an acquisition like that is just it makes more sense to do it in the offseason rather than doing it now. So
you know,
that's why.
if there's one player from the Ducks that see, I'm a fan of both of these teams, so I'm more of a Habs fan, so I'm gonna, you know what, I'm gonna side with them. But Isaac Lunderstrom would be a sick
Yeah,
player for the Habs to get, like really sick.
he's an interesting guy too. He's had a decent season this year. I think he's been
Yeah,
pretty good.
this year has been more of his breakout season compared
Yeah,
to the last few seasons that he's played. But I feel like this would be a perfect guy to pair up with maybe a third round pick. And the Ducks, I mean, listen, I mean, they're not really losing much. He's not that. He's no like Jimmy Drysdale or like Zegras or Troy Terry. What's my God? I'm
that's right,
Well,
Terry.
Troy Terry is
Troy
young. He
Terry.
is
Sorry,
24. Yeah.
like you're not parting ways with some of these guys who are like really great. I mean, this guy's good, but like he's movable. I would see.
It all depends on the direction the Ducks want to go.
Yeah.
That's all
But
it is.
I do know that Kent Hughes we mentioned in the last video too, Chris, that they're more interested in getting prospects that have been playing for
At
Yeah,
least a year or two.
at
Like they're
least a
somewhat
year or two.
developed, you know?
Yeah.
yeah, that are
The early
developed.
stages of the development,
Yeah,
essentially.
that's it. But not like
Yeah.
not a guy that's just been drafted, but a guy that's like slowly
So
developing and close to the NHL.
so
But
I would
again,
I
In
would
the
see
NHL.
I would see also oh my God, the name Maxim Comtois too, like you guys
Yeah.
mentioned.
yeah.
That would probably
And
be
he's a Quebecer, that guy.
Yeah.
that's
So
that's also
And we're
probably
gonna
why it
move
would make
on.
more
We're
sense.
actually gonna move on to another Quebecer with the Colorado Avalanche right now. So speaking about the Colorado Avalanche, why add a guy like Jeff Petrie? You have Devin Taves, you have Kale McCarr, you have Samuel Girard, you have Eric Johnson, uh, you have Bowen Byram. I don't know if he's going to be coming back anytime soon, but you still have him. There's so many pieces on defense that make them elite, right? But there's one thing that they don't have is that they don't have an experienced defenseman that plays at an elite level. Okay, so I think a guy like Jeff Petry, yes, maybe it's a little bit far fetched or whatever, um, but there's Gerard. He's been linked to the Montreal Canadiens multiple times. He is getting paid $5 million, and Gerard's currently playing on his offside. He's not a right-handed defenseman. He's a left-handed the defenseman playing on the right side. They need a right-handed defenseman. So what if they make a deal that includes Gerard to get that right-handed defenseman with the experience and the elite talent in Jeff Petry? Also, Joe Sakic has made it known that they're willing to part ways with Justin Barron and their first-round pick. So right there, they're making some pieces accessible. I know they've been heavily linked to Claude Giroux. Maybe that's the direction they're heading. They want to add an experienced center that could play the wing. But I think Petrie someone works. If they really, really want to solidify their chances at winning a Stanley Cup and like literally patch up every single little hole that they have, because there's not many holes on the Colorado Avalanche. They're pretty much
Yeah.
ready for a deep playoff run. I think getting a guy like Petrie would be crazy.
Here's the thing for Sam Girard. As much as I would love him to play with the Montreal Canadiens, they we would be on the like paying side. We would have to retain salary, probably give them a draft pick, and probably a
Yeah,
bit more.
I agree with
That's why I don't see that deal
I
happening.
I agree with Chris. I think, to be honest, I think a deal like that for Sam Gerard is unrealistic. Straight up for Jeff Petrie, I just do. Just in terms of the fact that I think if this was 2 years ago, we'd be having a different conversation. But I think right now, I just don't see that happening. However, with Colorado, um,
Expect the
it
unexpected.
could, yeah, you never know. But I think the other thing too with Colorado is they have some guys and some prospects that they're willing to move. And Colorado, look, they're looking to win a cup now. They've got the team to do it. They've got the players to do it. They've got, like, Kale McCarr is fantastic. They've got a bunch of guys that can definitely win them a cup now. I think Jeff Petrie puts them over the top. But I think that they're going to try to do that without getting rid of Sam Gerard, who I think they still believe in a little bit. And I think if they do trade a guy like Sam Gerard, it's going to be in the offseason. But there is one guy that to me is an interesting or fascinating player that I think could do something maybe in Montreal. And people are going to say, no, I'm not saying Alex Newhook, although that would be fantastic, but that's not going to happen.
Tyson Jost.
I think Tyson Jost could be someone that
Uh,
could
Jost.
definitely, yeah. I think he could definitely be someone that, with a change of scenery and with the right development, could definitely turn into something for the Canadiens. And obviously, Colorado will have to trade their first round pick as well. But that's a guy that I'm looking at if the Canadiens make a move like that for Jeff Petrie. Obviously, if they want to give us Newhook, I'm going to take that. Or you take that and you run in a heartbeat, but that's not going to happen.
100%.
So obviously, you settle for what you can get.
I don't think anybody in their right mind would trade New Hook for Petrie.
No, I know, but I'm just saying you never know, right? Nowadays, but I'm just saying if Colorado offered Alex Newhook, I would say yes and hang up the phone right away.
Okay, so we could all agree that this is just like
Yeah,
It's
a very
possible.
far-fetched connection, but
yeah,
if they
far
were
fetched.
to do it, that I mean, they do have the prospects and the picks to make it happen. So moving on to our two last teams, we have Dallas. So Klingberg, he's absolutely not going to resign. Right now, they're kind of like in a limbo right now, fighting for a playoff spot, outside of a playoff spot, whatever. So depending on what happens, if they do head into into the playoffs, I mean, they could potentially still move Klingberg and add a guy like Petrie, right, to kind of fill in the void.
Yes,
But at the same time, I think Klingberg's kind of gonna be something that they try to like unload, or I mean, he is a UFA, so I mean, maybe he does get moved at the deadline. It really depends on what the asking price is, but he may just walk and Dallas gets nothing. So
I,
as of right now, we have Klingberg, who has been connected to some Eastern teams. They're probably looking for some prospects and some picks, whatever. But with the prospects and picks they could get, they could essentially flip that for a guy like Jeff Petrie to replace Klingberg. And also, the Stars would be a good fit for Petrie because he would settle in the second defensive pairing with Eza Lindell. And you already have Ryan Suter and Miro Heiskanen playing the top defensive pairing. So their top four is going to be literally not only solidified because of the experience, but also with the talent that they have. Um, Also, I think the Canadians would want to target a guy like Maverick Bork. or potentially get a first round pick
or
from
Logan.
Dallas Stars.
There's also Logan Stankoven too, who's not bad, and Ty Dellandrea, he's another one. I think with Montreal, I think with Dallas, sorry, that one makes a lot of sense as well. Dallas is a team that, like you said, right? John Klingberg looks like he's gone sooner rather than later as well, and I think it's a fit for Jeff Petry because again, his family's not far from there. He's got, I think his wife has family ties in Texas, or someone close to him has family ties in Texas, so it makes sense for him as well to go there. And I think for Dallas, look, you trade Klingberg, you go get Petry, you're kind of getting pretty much the same player anyway, so it doesn't really change much. Just one's older than the other. But yeah, I think that one's a definite possibility. There's definitely some guys that you can look at over there. Maverick Works, one that you mentioned. I don't know if they move him, but Stankoven's another one that I think Montreal fans should be looking at. There's obviously Peterson, I believe, too, is his name. He's had a decent season as well, and Ty Dellandrea, who currently plays for the Texas Stars, and it's been up and down the lineup with Dallas this season. So there's definitely some prospects there for Dallas. I definitely think that could be a move that they make, and also with Dallas, one thing they get with Jeff Petry is cap certainty and term, so they don't have to worry about re-signing him because they're going to have him for
And
3
like the
years.
Nashville Predators, their window's coming to an end too. It's a
Yeah,
very short window, so they're gonna want to go for that Stanley Cup as soon as possible. Again, they went to the finals against Tampa Bay, if I'm not mistaken, in 2019 or 2020 when they had that whole bubble situation, and they haven't been able to replicate that ever since. So, I mean, that success ever since. So, I think that's definitely like a way to kind of patch up what they lose from Klinberg and essentially replace him with Petrie that wants to be there. So you're trading away a problem and you're acquiring a problem that's Montreal's problem at the moment, but it's your solution essentially. So I think that works on for both teams. What's your take on that, Chris?
Uh, I'm gonna be honest. I don't think he goes there.
So you just
Just
have that's just
I
your
really
stance.
don't. I don't see him going there at all. Like it makes no sense. And there's a lot of people. I think we lost Luca.
That's fine. It's been
There's a
a
lot of I think there's a storm going on
yeah.
here
There is a
anyway.
storm going on. It's
So
fine.
so yeah, I really don't think he ends up going there. There's a lot of people that are making these connections that, like you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast in this episode, that's Kent Hughes mentioned Klingberg's name 3 times. There's gonna be a 1-for-1 swap. There is no chance he's going to Dallas. It makes no sense. He doesn't fit the mold. They're like stuck between, like you said, in the playoffs, out of the playoffs. They need younger guys. They don't need older guys just to add on to their problems that are going to come in the next 2-3 years from now, anyways. So, I don't see him going there at all. It makes absolutely no sense for the Habs, and it makes absolutely no sense for Dallas. So,
Well, we
hello.
got Luca back. I think
Technical
all three of us
difficulties.
have experienced technical difficulties. There's currently a storm happening in Montreal, so we're going to be concluding this episode very soon. So the last team, and this is another far-fetched team, but I'm gonna explain why we have them on our list. So the New York Rangers. So the reason why I want to mention New York Rangers is because there's been a lot of talk that, according to Pierre LeBrun, he was saying that. Um, Keep an eye on Montreal between Montreal and the Rangers between now and March 21st. I think Montreal gets some Ranger prospects. The Habs could fill some Ranger needs, but because they need a third line defensive player in Lekkonen. That's the connection that was made, and a defenseman, either Sherrod or Petrie, but most likely
Yeah.
Sherrod. So Montreal would rather add prospects over picks, like we were saying before. They already have 12 picks for July. Rangers pipeline draws a lot of Habs interest. So the trade bait that they have that's been announced or kind of rumored is they're willing to get rid of their 2022 first round pick, Niels Lundqvist, Vitaly Krastov, Zach Jones, and Alexander Gorgiev. They need a left-handed defenseman, which Sherrod is, to replace Nemeth, who's been really struggling, and I think they're going to unload his contract at this trade deadline. But if they fail to acquire Sherrod, and Sherrod goes to a team like St. Louis, if Chikrin does not go to the Rangers as well, and he goes to a team like Florida, and Klinberg goes to another team, let's say Boston, maybe you do have to acquire a guy like Jeff Petry because that's your need. You need a defenseman. Yes, he's not going to be playing the right side, right? He's going to be playing the left side, but sometimes you need to make accommodations. And I
Yeah.
think Petry playing the left side on a stacked team like the Rangers, especially that they're a very offensive team, and Petry excels when it comes to offense. I think that would be a very sneaky move by the Rangers and a good fit for them. So I mean that concludes all the teams on our
Yeah.
list. We're just gonna conclude what you guys have to say.
Uh,
Uh,
I think Kravtsov would be the best player that the Habs should target. I think Jeff Gordon, uh, just the fact that he's in the Habs organization, I think there's going to be a lot of deals made with New York, probably a lot of deals made with Boston, who knows. But out of all the teams that we've mentioned so far, I think New York would be the team that I would prefer he goes to, just because of the fact that they have this guy Kravtsov. Is that how you pronounce it, Kravtsov?
yeah,
Yeah.
Kafta.
And and Chris mentioned it. I don't know if you mentioned it in the last podcast, but he's supposed to be like Kirill Kaprizov.
Somewhat similar, I would say, but not to that full extent because he has yet to play an NHL game.
Yeah.
But he's somewhat there. He's like
He
I would say,
has he has played NHL games. He
oh,
just
he
hasn't
has, he
played,
has.
he hasn't
Oh,
played well. He hasn't played well in his stint in the NHL. He has 4 points in 20 games, but that's also due to the fact that he hasn't been used properly by the Rangers either. And obviously, we can have the argument with Kako and Lafreniere as well. So I think it's just a change of scenery for him.
yeah, he needs to
Hasn't
be
played a game.
put in a top
Hasn't
six
played a game this
role.
season either for the Rangers. So
Yeah,
there's
he needs to be playing in a top six role. Currently, their top six is already filled, and that's why even I would say Lafreniere and Kako's development hasn't been on par to what the expectations
yeah,
were. So imagine a guy like Kraftstov, like forget about it. He's like the guy who's left on the side. So
I agree.
a highly sought prospect like that needs to be playing top minutes in order to properly develop. It doesn't help that they had Jack Quinn at the time, which I don't think was good for the New York Rangers until they got Gerard Gallant, who's been a fantastic coach for them and really helped the Rangers excel and take the next step. So, I mean, look, that's our list for today for the Jeff Petry trade destinations. We just wanted to say thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. I know there was some technical difficulties. Again, there was a storm that was occurring while recording this episode, so I hope you guys could understand that. But don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you on the next episode. And maybe this might be the last trade destination video we may make because I think we covered all the top teams. So it's been
Yeah.
a pleasure covering that. But maybe there is an addition due to the rumors that come in the next couple of weeks heading towards the NHL trade deadline. But as of right now, this is the end. And we'll see you on the next episode where we're going to be covering possibly a potential trade because there's a lot of traction right now in the NHL. Ever since Toffoli has been traded, a lot of teams have been in discussions and discussing a deal. So thank you so much, guys. We'll see you on the next one.